hanging in there. We were just talking before you popped on that everybody should be making their contacts. And, you know, everybody really is enjoying talking to people.
Yeah.
I called a doctor who I sold a property to last week, and he says, hey, what do you need? I said, nothing. I said, I'm just checking in on you to make sure that, you know, you are doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And you guys, it's also a really good time to go through your past clients. And if they haven't, if you have any, even if it's one, make sure that they're giving you Zillow, you know, reviews, all of that.
Great idea.
That's what my assistant's been doing, is going back to my past year, and because it's embarrassing to go past that, and asking them to fill out a review.
That's a great idea.
Like 50% had, and so, and now they're starting to come in. So that's something that you can do. But more important, I think, is just client care, just checking in to see how they're doing. Don't ask for any business. They're going to ask you about the market. And I know Charlie sent out those slides from the meeting on Tuesday about what's really happening, which is so amazing. We did a version of the same and put our JSG stuff all over it. And then I shared it on my Facebook page. And it was really, you know, people texted me like, gee, you know, thank you for sharing that, because we were wondering what was going on.
Huh.
So
we're okay to share that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Share it.
Another nice thing to do is go on MLS and pull up the active, pending, and closed numbers, and those will be in stats in MLS. Play around with that and figure out your way around as your home, and post all of that to Facebook and to your Instagram and all that other stuff, and just tell people that, you know, we are still working. We're working a little differently, but, you know, we still do have active listings, we do have pendings, and we do have closed.
Yep.
So keeping the positive side of things instead of the negative. Oh, I haven't done anything all week. You know, bring things up that we are still doing business, just a little differently.
Yep. Can I tell you a story of something that could have gone awfully bad, you guys?
Yes.
Because, you know, I have a story. My listing was closing last Friday at 11 o'clock. And my seller had already moved out, and the buyer's agent called me and said, you know, that armoire that was a part of the offer that's in the basement, my buyers actually don't want it. And I'm asking permission to go in there before they close and have a Weeby Holland type of guy dismantle it and take it out. As he said, it's kind of my gift to them that they don't have to deal with it. And I said, let me talk to the owner. She's moved out, you know, let me find out. I don't know what her comfort level is. So I called. Owner said, oh, that's fine. I mean, as long as they don't bang up a wall, then I'm responsible for it. You know, that type of thing. I don't care. That's fine. So Friday morning came around. They were going to be there at 9. The agent was going to be there and let this person in. I looked at my text message at 10 o'clock and almost had a freaking heart attack. Well, because the person that was moving that piece of furniture did have a heart attack while doing it and died.
Oh my God.
In the house?
Oh my God.
Yes and yes.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
Was he by himself?
No, the agent was there, but the man was there with his son, 15-year-old son.
Oh, no.
Is he
Yep.
okay?
No, he died.
Oh my. Whoa.
He died at the house.
That's
How old was he?
horrible. That's a
Do you know how old he was?
47.
Oh
my
my
gosh.
So I
Terrible.
got the text and he said, I'm surprised, has any of these neighbors called you? The handyman that I called had a heart attack while moving the armoire and is dead. I just went, are you kidding me? I called him like, are you kidding me? He said, why would I kid you about something like that? And so here I had to call, and they closed. The buyers went to the buyers weren't even there. They were told about it. They were kind of freaking out about it, but they went to closing and they closed.
Janine, you have a new marketing ploy. Comes with Dead Man.
I know.
God.
So by 12:30, I talked to the agent. I said, so is everything okay? And he's like, no, I'm still at the house waiting for the funeral parlor to pick up this body.
Oh my.
Oh,
So it could, you guys, that could have been, I mean, it was the worst thing possible, but liability wise,
Mhm.
That's what I was thinking.
oh, that's all I was thinking. I had to call the seller and tell the seller what happened. And I said, the good news is you're closed. Bad news is, and I told the seller, and you know, I'll never do that again.
I was gonna say.
If you want to go and haul a piece of anything away, you're going to do it after that sucker closes. So don't, I am here to tell you that's the worst thing that could happen. It happened.
Wow.
that's terrible.
That's
Just
crazy.
That one's going
lesson
to
learned.
books.
And that is such a fluke thing. That's never, ever, ever going to happen again.
I know. I thought, what's the worst? He died? Yeah, he did.
I sold a house last summer that the seller was not in good health at all. And I had Andrea Bell from Focus Title go to his house a week before closing and have him pre-signed just in case if he would pass. He passed a week after closing.
Oh,
I mean, he was not in good health. I'm like, I need my commission check. I've been working on this for a
Yeah.
long time.
oh my
And
gosh.
there was nothing. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. So, you know, going through real estate, there are strange things happen. We just have to kind of take a deep breath and move forward. My
Yeah.
goodness, Janine, that's crazy.
So that's my horror story for the week. Shall we get into market analysis?
Sure. Let's see what houses are worth now that we've worked on this. So what we're going to do is Janine is going to take the lead on this. And for those of you who haven't joined us last week, I'm Connie Cummings. I'm the productivity coach out in Lake Country. Janine Werner is the productivity coach in North Shore. And what we'll be doing is you get 2 for 1 here on this
I
productivity.
feel like we're on the
because-
radio.
I do. Hey, I got a new headset because
I
my
know, I
husband's working at home too, and he said I'm really loud. So hopefully this is toning it down a bit for him.
What?
So what we're going to do is I will pull up
Two.
a back screen on everything if you guys have questions and if you want to follow along. If you go on your screen for Zoom, you can actually on the top make your Zoom box smaller. And if you want to follow along on your computers, it would be great because we all know as we do things, we learn a little bit better, quicker, faster than just watching. You are more than welcome to join along with us.
Wow.
A bear.
So go ahead, Janine. I'm going to take over the screen here with
Okay.
MLS, and we'll start there with the property and move forward on how to do a CMA.
All
So
right.
Janine, if you talk through it, I'll do the work behind.
All right, perfect. So you're going to pull up 333 East Carlisle in Whitefish Bay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, there's Connie.
Hi.
So cute.
So I called and they should be,
So
it's a training, I mean, it's a meeting, but they can't hear me. Oh, they can't hear you?
Yeah, we can hear you.
yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
On the
That's
bottom
right.
left, there is a mute. If you guys have anything going on in the background, if you'd press that mute button, and then if you have comments, you are more than welcome to undo it. Then we can kind of have a little bit of control around here.
Can you repeat the address, please?
Yep. It's 333 East Carlisle Avenue.
Okay, and if you look on the screen on the top of the MLS number is 168-2828.
So this was an interesting home. So the first thing that I would do when I would list a property is I would go right to the history and look at what the history is. And okay, so in 2016, I noticed that it sold for $399.9. Okay. And then I want to go below that and look at the expired.
Wow.
Mhm.
And why don't you click on that expired just for shits and giggles? Yep. So you can literally go in and see all of the activity that they inputted into MLS when they make a change.
And what you're going to do is on the left here where this plus and minus is, if you click on the plus and the minus, it will give you every time they entered anything into MLS.
Yep. So it's really interesting just to see, you know, when they inputted, when they did a price reduction, all of that is in that history. So I look at that. So I know that they started, what was it, $449? They reduced it to $399.9 and it sold in 2016. And with the new price change, it sold in 20 days.
Mhm.
So now I'm going to look into the tax information. And I'm always going to look at the square footage at the bottom and see if that matches the previous, if there is a previous sale. I want to make sure that nothing has changed. So 1379 square feet, 2-bedroom home. So let's now say that this person called you and said, Nicole, I want to list our property. What's the first thing after you've looked at the history? What's the first thing you're going to do when you're looking at comparables?
I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Well, I didn't do it.
Cindy, put on your mute.
Oh,
They've done any
Okay.
updates?
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at current and sold properties, 2 bedrooms, only up to 2 bedrooms for the past year.
Okay,
So
so what
I'm gonna
I
do-
always do is I keep, and Janine and I were talking about this morning.
Yeah.
When you're working on CMAs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this one doesn't have to be open. Nor this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 tabs open. Take and open another tab on the top to start your search. So you can always keep your listing on one screen in case if you need to go back to look at it.
Good idea.
So I'm going to open up another tab, open up another Flex MLS window, and start a new search in Whitefish Bay. So, okay, go ahead, Janine, and I'll work
So
it through.
I like to do active, delayed, pending, and sold. All of those.
Mhm.
So if you hold down your shift button and tap it, it'll highlight all of them.
Milwaukee County. And then bedrooms, notice how she's doing 0 to 2. So I don't want to look at any properties over 2 bedrooms because that is not what an appraiser is going to be doing. This one will be an interesting one, you guys, because I'll tell you the story about it as we go further along.
On your top right-hand corner, you can see results. So right now, we have Milwaukee County, Whitefish Bay, 0 to 2 bedrooms, 525 results. So what we're going to do is come into dates. And Janine, how long do you want to go back for
A
your
year.
sold date?
Just a year.
So that brings us down to 23 properties. If you can see in your upper right-hand corner, that changed. So now we're getting into something a little more realistic to work with.
Yep. And then let's do a sold price of 300 and up. Or no, let's say, yeah, 300 just for.
We're at 8.
Okay, so let's view those results.
Do you want number of bathrooms or leave it at 8?
Just leave it at 8, yeah.
Okay, upper right hand, click view results.
So do you guys remember the square footage that we had on Carlisle? It's like 1360, something like that, right?
Here's what's nice to flip back to your
Yep.
other screen. 1379.
79.
And that's why you want to have lots of screens, because you're going to want to be flipping back. All right. So we have 1379 square feet, and they bought it at $399.9. How are we going to price this sucker? We already know how they priced it, but let's just say we didn't. How do we find a comparable? So I always start at the very highest price. So I go down to,
Okay, what I do is I click this select listings.
yep,
Being as we have 8, I click them all, and then I get rid of the 800 square foot one.
yep.
I get rid of the 800 square foot one.
I have a question for you about square footage.
Mhm.
It said 1379 above grade, but then it has something below, so it populated to 22,000 something.
Yep, that's a good question. We're only looking at above grade square footage as long as the below grade doesn't have an egress in one of those rooms that you can count, or if it's a walkout basement.
So if there are egress, then we're counting it.
We're counting that room. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Get rid of Oakland Avenue, Janine, or keep it?
Keep it for now. Ardmore can
Do you
keep.
count just the bedroom in below grade, or do you count if there was a bathroom as well as a bedroom? Would you count both of those in the square footage?
We don't count them as square footage if it's in the basement. In a regular, not a walkout basement, we do not, if it's a full bath down there, we don't count it as square footage. We note it, but we don't count it.
Okay, and keep in mind with the estimate total square foot here, a lot of times people will put in the total square foot including basement. So that's where we need to look at the property and see if there's any below grade finished square feet. So this is
Yep.
1258 above, which is the same as below, or excuse me, is the same as total. When we get into some of these, here we go, let's find one. Their total square foot is 1858, and this does include their below ground square footage. So
Right.
we're comparing the upper, but keep in mind that this does have a finished basement, so it does add value to the house.
So that's really important as you and I may do it a little bit differently, Connie. So let's hold on to that one. Yep. So let's keep going. $5807 North Bay Ridge. Yep, that's good. I'm going to click on that square footage of 1525.
Janine, what's the range that you go through if it's, how much less a square footage and how much more square footage can you go?
I try to price it down per square foot. So if it's, anything in this case less than 1,000, I'll eliminate. I'm looking at something comparable. However, if I can't find the comps, I'm gonna pull them out of something. So I may go lower in square footage because I'm trying to find the price that's going to back the price that I am looking for.
So even though the one on Carla was 1,300 or change, you're still going to use the 18?
Because it really is an 18. It's really less than that. It's more like
it's 15.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And even then, sometimes, you guys, I will verify that with the tax information. I'll go a step further and make sure that 1558 is what they're saying on the taxes. And there it is. Yep. So notice they're being assessed on the 1558 square footage.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Yeah, and I'll show you why this is super important that you realize the discrepancy when we're doing a market analysis. So 5807 North Bay Ridge, if you notice, again, here is a good example, 1525 square feet, but 240 of that was in the basement. So 1285 square feet on that home. I sold that house.
Yeah.
Used to be on my block. Like that house. Okay. So that's a good one. 606 East Beaumont. The next one. So Julie Richter. All right. So this was 1274 square feet above ground and sold for $375. So immediately I am looking at this one at Beaumont. It's higher in price, right? And it has a little bit less square footage. So I'm thinking in my mind, that's probably going to be my comp right there, right off the bat. Also, if you map, can you show them how to map Beaumont with Carlisle? So you can see, or map all of them and you can see where they are in comparison to each other.
So right now we have 6 selected.
Mm-hmm.
When you click on the map button, shows you where all your properties are. When you click on it, it will show you, and all of your green boxes are active or active with offer, and your blue ones are your sold.
So click on the blue box. That's Ardmore. So that property is further south. It could still be comparable. However, you're south of Silver Spring and Whitefish Bay, so it's going to be weighted maybe a little differently. So let's go back to, yep, there we go. There's Beaumont. So you can see that's really close to the subject property. And I like this one because if you take 375, so I get my little calculator out, 375, and you divide that by the square footage, which was
1274.
1274. That sold for $294.35. So let's just say $294 a square foot, right? And if you take that square footage and you go to Carlisle at $13.79 a square foot, this comes out to $405,906. So that's kind of my comparable because it's just right there. Because we know they bought it for $399.9. We can push this comp and say $405,906. But what are the differences between Carlisle and Beaumont? So very off the top of my head, I know that Carlisle has 1.5 garage spaces. Beaumont had 2, I believe. So there's a difference right there. So let's look through the photos and read the description of this comparable that we're, relying on.
So here's Beaumont.
Beautiful.
Great updating.
Who wouldn't want to buy that?
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous for a 2-bedroom. All right, so then let's look at the description and see what this says. Notice we did not see any basement photos, so custom kitchen, window seat, Carrera marble, gas fireplace, upstairs 2 bedrooms and a full bath, secret garden backyard. Okay. And look at this, concession remarks, $2,000 in closing costs. So now what? Then you're not taking it off the 375. You're taking your square footage off of 373. Because that changes things. FYI. All right, so
Why
let me,
do people put the concession? Why would people give a concession like that?
just for this reason. When you're going back and let's say, you know, you're pulling up a comparable, we know that it really wasn't 375. It was really 373.
Oh, so the question is, why would you give concessions?
Or why would you post it?
Yeah, I don't know why you would post it like that.
We do, just because
Okay.
when you and, you know, when the rest of the agents are pulling comparables and that wasn't in there for appraisal reasons, because really it sold for 373.
Correct.
So
Right?
if I've got a condo right now that we're giving a $3,500 seller credit, would that go in there in concession?
A seller credit or a buyer credit?
A buyer credit.
Yep. Yep. I mean, you don't have to, but we do.
Huh.
Yeah, because it helps when you're pulling comparables, because that's really the raw data right there.
Why do you give a closing cost credit?
Good question. You give a closing cost credit if, let's say, just an example, the buyer wants A, B, C on home inspection, and that cost is going to be approximately $3,000. And sellers like, I don't even live in the state anymore, or I'm not interested in having anyone come in my house and do the work. We already have the estimates. So what you can do is you can ask the buyer's lender, or the buyer will ask that lender, and then you want to have that in writing from the lender in an email sent to you and your buyer, that this is how much we have in buyer's closing costs and credit. And then you can go to that listing agent when you're writing the amendment and say, we're not going to ask for A, B, and C repairs, but it's going to reflect in a buyer's closing costs and prepaids up to $3,000. And so therefore, the buyers don't have to bring that money to closing. It saves them some money, and then they can do the repairs themselves. It's just another way of negotiating. Some buyers don't want the sellers to do the repairs. They would like to do them themselves. So they would prefer to get a closing cost credit. Be careful, because there is a limit to what that amount is. So that's why I always have the lender email myself, the buyer's agent, and the buyers what that amount is. I have seen amendments, you guys, that come in, and it says sellers to pay buyers closing costs, $5,000 of closing costs.
Yep.
Okay, we all sign off on it. And guess what? What if their closing costs were only $2,000?
Then they lose that $3,000.
You just, yep. So be aware of what that amount is. Okay, so they put it in there. That's great.
Hey, Jenny, quick question though on that.
Yeah.
So thank you. So I had a problem once in one of my closings where I did talk to the lender. The lender confirmed a $4,000 closing credit that he could he would be able to use the $4,000, and then a day later, a day before closing, he's like, "Oh, we only need $2,800." But I did confirm it with him, and at the end of the day, he did not need that much money.
Yeah, that's why I get it in writing.
Okay.
And it's on the closing statement. I mean, So that's happened to us. And from that point on, we now get it in writing from the lender.
And then what does that do though? Like, does that, then they do have to use a full amount?
They have to use it or lose it. I've had this happen.
Yeah.
So they either use it or lose it. If you have a lender who can be a little creative, it works nice because they can put it toward maybe a tax credit because they have to have so much tax money in escrow. Or they can put it toward their homeowner's insurance escrow. So what they'll do is put it into the escrow account. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And
Okay.
honestly, I have never had a lender tell me that they can do something and then find out they can't. I would really take a hard look at that lender, I think.
Yeah, it happened to me, but we worked it out so that it was
Good.
good. Yeah.
So where did they put the extra monies, Paula?
Oh my gosh, like I worked magic on this one. So part of the reason, yeah, seriously, part of the reason why we needed to, they really wanted the full 4,000 was because the furnace and the AC unit were very, very old, and they needed, and I think that the furnace needed to be replaced because it had, something was leaking. So my buyers felt like they were getting screwed by not utilizing the full $4,000. So what we did, like I think it was like $1,800 remaining that we couldn't use. So what the sellers really wanted to close on the house. So what they did was write a check for $1,800 to the furnace company.
Okay.
So that they could get that furnace or AC unit replaced or whatever it was. But I also didn't know that they would lose the money at that point because I was fairly new. So I had no idea they were going to lose the $1,800, and they felt really screwed. But it was my fault because I didn't inform them that it was up to $4,000, even though I did confirm with the lender that we could use the full $4,000. But again, it worked out. The sellers wrote that check out to the company, and everybody was happy.
Yep, that's why I always have the buyer reach out to the lender, and the lender replies to both buyer and myself, CCs me on the email of what their closing costs and prepaids are that we can use in a home inspection amendment. And so then it's like, this is coming from your lender. This is not coming from me. It's in an email, and this is what we're going to put in the home inspection amendment, and the lender is aware of it. That's why we're asking. So I really kind of get involved and say, hey, lender, the reason we're asking this is because we're going to use it in a home inspection amendment. So it forces them to maybe chisel their numbers instead of just throwing some random number out. Keep them accountable. Okay, so back to Carlisle. So now that they're going to be relisting this property that just sold 5 years ago or whatever it is, and they want to sell, within a reasonable amount of time, we could have gone up to 400 and over 400. Now, mind you, what isn't in this description of Carlisle is that they put $50,000 worth of updates since that they bought it. So they have like $450,000 into this house. Is that even going to be a concession? Because now let's look at the photos on Carlisle. That's the conversation then that you're going to have with this seller. I'm not going to have the comparables to validate the money that you put in. And sometimes we put things into our house that we're not going to get back out. I'm just looking at the raw data, and what's nice, the difference between this house, yes, it has a 1.5 car garage, but their basement is fully finished. So that's the basement, the lower unit. And
also
it has
egress windows down there too.
Yep. And there's a second full bath down there.
Oh,
Yeah. So the backstory of this, you guys, is that this has not closed yet. I brought the buyer to this property, and this buyer isn't financing the property.
Mm.
However, so it's cash. What I did to protect this particular buyer is I put in an appraisal contingency
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that the price was high. I felt that we could validate it, but to protect my buyer, it was cash with an appraisal. So when you do something like that and it's an independent appraisal, you're going to have to find an independent appraiser to come out and look at the property, and the seller pays for that out of pocket.
Mm.
Janine, what did that appraisal cost?
I believe it was $250.
Does
Okay.
the
and
sounds
seller
about right.
have to
Did you
agree with
find
who
that
the,
appraiser?
Pardon?
Did
does
you
the
locate
seller
the
have to
appraiser?
agree with who you're using?
No. I just put the appraisal contingency. Nope, it's up to the buyer to. So interestingly enough, with independent appraisals, it's tougher to appraise. Lenders are going to try like heck to get that to the contract price. It's in their best interest because they're working for that bank. The independent appraiser doesn't have that relationship. They were hired by the buyer. So I'm still waiting on this.
Mm.
Yeah, excuse me, Janine, if I could ask, you said when you were talking about having this independent appraisal done, and then you said, and the seller will pay for it. You meant to say buyer.
I'm sorry, yes, I meant to say buyer.
All
Yep.
right.
It's however you write it in the contract. But typically an appraisal, regardless if it's financed or not, is a buyer expense. Yep, so this buyer is paying for it.
So Janine, are you on site during that appraisal with your comps to help?
Normally I would, well, no, it's not my listing. I could have been as a buyer's agent. I know this appraiser very well. He's also a Keller Williams agent. And so I talked to him on the phone about it.
Okay.
Normally, if I was representing a seller, or in this case, a buyer with an appraisal, I would be, but with this COVID thing, no. I do as much as I can over the phone.
Yeah.
And he can pull all the list of improvements, and I've sent you, he has all of that. So, all right, so in this case, what this listing agent decided to do is, regardless of the improvements that they put in this home over the past 5 years, they decided to list it for what they sold it for. So probably a good move, anything over 4. So you really have to, like, we go through all the photos. So now if you could go to, it's hard for me to, the CMA, I have to exit. No.
You want me to pull in the CMA?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
So pull the CMA and I'll show you what we do. Use selected results. So then go to the statistical CMA. Yep. And then view. So this is really interesting. Now, mind you, this square footage is incorrect, but this is how we kind of evaluate it. So I have to go back in now with all of these active solds and change the square footage and the estimated square foot price. But on average, there's 2 listings that are active, showing, no, there's 3 listings.
It says 2 active here.
I know, but it's, yeah.
I think we
2
got rid of the one.
I think we did too. Okay, so 2 active, 4 sold, 6 overall. And then you can look at sold price per square foot. But again, that's not going to be accurate because
They
of
included
how
the
they
basement.
combine. Yeah. Yep, so then you have to go in and adjust those. But that, if everything is correct on MLS, you can use this as a tool. So what they're saying is for the sold, on the low end, it's 168 a square foot, and on the high end, 294 a square foot. And you can see list versus sales price. Okay. Hi, Stacy.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good.
I just was missing you. I thought I'd pop in.
So, Connie, do you want to go over the RPR portion of that?
Yes. So in another tab, for those of you who have subscribed, RPR is Realtor Property Resource. And this is something that we can get. You have to subscribe. It does not cost you anything. So it's, the website is narrpr.com. So if you have not subscribed to it, I highly recommend that you do. And what happens is this gives you, I'm gonna log in here. This gives you the background of houses. You can look to see what people took out for a mortgage. And a lot of times when you go in for your seller's consultation and your listing presentation, you want to know a little bit of background on the house before you go in, or when you're putting in an offer, to see what is reasonable for an offer. Sometimes people have a little bit higher price because they're really mortgaged up, and we have to have a little bit of compassion in our hearts for these people because they have to get that money out. So what we want to do is try and rationalize it for them. And I really like to know the background of everything. Let's see. There it is. So what I'm going to do is put in 333 East Carlisle Avenue. And this is really cool. Even if you want to creep on your family members, you can do this. So what this does is it gives you the map on the right-hand side. It gives you the list price. This is what is listed now. It gives you a property value that they think the property is worth, which is not always correct because they don't take everything into consideration that we do. So when we do market analysis on a house, it should take about 2 hours. So what we're going to do is work on your MLS with your CMA, work your price down under and out. In Whitefish Bay, I think it's a little easier to do markets on houses. Out in Waukesha County, we just have a vast variety of houses and acreage and a pool or no pool and ranches and 2 stories and bi-levels and tri-levels. And it takes a lot longer. And as Janine was saying, there are some houses in Whitefish Bay that she isn't going to use because it's south of Silver Spring. In Waukesha County, a lot of times we have to use maybe 3 cities worth of properties in order to find the right comp. So using your MLS, your RPR, and then we're going to touch on Zillow too, even though nobody likes Zillow. But keep in mind that the general public and the consumer will be checking Zillow, so we have to know our information. So coming down into your RPR report, we can see on the left-hand side that it gives you your basic facts of your 2-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family residence, $13.79, and list price per square foot, which is nice. Also, how many days it's been on the market. It gives you how the property has changed over the last month, 12 months, and coming through with your pictures. It has historical records for the property. The median estimated home value. I mean, this is just great information for you guys to look at and really dig into and see why something is priced this way. Keep in mind, there are a lot of municipalities in Waukesha County that do not have the property information on the tax bill. Therefore, it will not have it in RPR either. So you'll have to go to an assessor's report. So that's also very interesting. So coming all the way to the bottom here, the median estimated home value is great to look at also because it goes back all the way from January of 2005 to present, and you can see where that house has been playing in the market versus other houses that are comparable and the zip code that it's in versus Milwaukee County and Wisconsin. So obviously Whitefish Bay is up a little bit higher than its comparables anywhere in Milwaukee County or Wisconsin. Just as an example, this house in Waukesha County would be at about $175,000.
Yikes.
$175,000 and about $1,800 in taxes.
Right.
So, you know, you really have to know your market and know your area that you're working in. Here's your price change history, your room details. This is what I always like to look at all the way in the bottom. Here's your schools. So it'll tell you what school districts are, which is really important for families. Legal description, tax info, and deeded records. Okay, and these people must not have a loan, because if there's any loan information, it will be down here at the bottom of the report.
Yep.
Okay. Does that help everybody out for a different viewpoint on houses?
Yeah, Connie, quick question. So between at the very top, the RVM, can you just quickly explain where they're getting that figure and what the RVM stands for?
I have no idea what RVM stands for. Realtor
It's a
value,
realtor value model.
I think it's
Metrics. It's
model?
realtor value metrics, I believe.
Metrics.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And so what this is doing is it's taking the average price range of homes and dividing it by the amount of homes and giving you a flat number. So keep in mind, what we're going to do is, this house had these beautiful marble countertops. It had 2 sinks in the kitchen. It was fully updated. We're going to take that into consideration because of the finishes in the house. So 385 is a nice number to start at, but add your finishes in and we're definitely around 400.
Well, I hope the appraiser thinks the same way you do, honey.
That would be nice. Yeah. So coming down, and what I did is I just clicked on the RVM. And if you bring this down, it really gets into depth on the recently sold properties, on where they're getting the calculations. They took some off-market properties. Okay. And just, this is where they're finding their numbers from. So this is a great website to play in right now if you guys don't have anything to do. Put in properties and look at it, because, you know, here's your RVM. You can hit your history, your charts, your comp analysis. It tells you about the neighborhood. It's really a great website to go in and research properties.
You know what's really nice too is that if you come up with the price, just doing a CMA off of MLS, and then you go to the RPR, it's really nice to see how did you do? You know, it's like, if you're off, it's going to show up when you start comparing different sites. Another good thing too is we always are checking each other's comparables. So if we're going on a listing appointment, or if a teammate is going on a listing appointment and they're pulling the comparables, they'll do a shout out, hey, I am looking at this property to list. This is what I know about it. Can you dig around and come up with a sales price or a list price? So we usually have a couple people on it. And if you're not on a team, just ask somebody that, you know, in the office, hey, I'm thinking about listing this property. Can you see what you come up with? It's always good to get 2 different opinions.
Yep. Well, and I know we're working from home right now, but keep in mind, on Thursday mornings with PC, we jab around a little bit, okay, a lot, with each other and say, hey, what about this property? What do you think about? Find somebody who's with you in the, you know, that you're both in PC, and really bounce things off of each other. And we are more than happy to help you out also. And some of the more experienced agents at the office. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what makes KW culture just amazing, because we want everyone to succeed. And we appreciate everybody being on this call, because it makes us happy.
It does.
It does. Perfect. So the last thing that we want to pop in on here is
Zillow.
The big Z. Okay. I know everybody says, oh, Zillow, but you know what? Let's just see for fun what Zillow says about this property. Okay. Janine, you are getting a heck of a deal.
See, okay, that just shows you guys.
And I didn't pull this up beforehand, you guys, just to let you know. So
Hold on, I'm not being rude.
That's unbelievable.
This is Janine. Never mind. Yeah. Oh my gosh, she got a heck of a deal.
you got a heck of a deal because the Zestimate is at 482. So let's play devil's advocate. You are going for a listing appointment for this house, and you
Yes.
have your number of 399.9 that you are pretty darn confident that you can sell this house at. And you walk in and the seller says, well, I saw it on Zestimate. I know I can get almost $500,000 for my house.
Yes. And so, and I'm trying to Google it right now because I don't know the exact fact, but I think the owner of Zillow actually sold his personal home, and I'll find it before the class ends, for far less, way like $1 million less than his estimate. So it's a lot of information that hasn't been fact checked. They're
Right.
going by up above and below square
Right.
footage. On
Okay, so let's nip this right in the bud. So Zillow at the top of the page here, if you guys see, does not have the amount of bedrooms listed. Do you
Right.
think that would make a difference in the price?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
what
the
they're
square
doing is they're
footage.
going off of 2,000 square foot.
Right.
And we know that 2,000 square foot does include the basement. So we can't value the basement square foot as we do above ground.
What about the egress windows? Does that affect it?
Egress windows will give you your square footage for the basement. Because there's an egress window, you can count a bedroom.
But that
But-
actually was not a legal egress size window in their basement, just
Okay.
FYI. Yeah. Here's the data. Spencer Raskoff, CEO of Zillow, sold his home 40% less than the Zillow estimate. So
Wow.
it is really just it's really kind of a shame that it's even out there because they just throw all the data in. They don't put in, like you said, the bedrooms.
Yep.
What's
And sometimes
counted as-
they do. And sometimes it comes out spot on, which is actually great. But now keep in mind, so my argument, don't like the argument word, but my discussion with the seller would be, now, Mr. Seller, looking at your Zillow report here, it doesn't list the amount of bedrooms. So do you think a 4-bedroom house would be valued higher than a 2-bedroom house? Also looking down on the report that you can see, down in price history, it says right here that your house sold in 2016 for $399,000. Do you think in 3 years' time, your house has went up to almost $500,000?
Well, yeah, because I put over $50,000 into it, Connie, and then it's increased its value since then as a home. So yeah.
Okay. So because we live in Wisconsin, and I understand that you replace your furnace and your air conditioning, do you think living in Wisconsin, a furnace is a necessity?
Yeah, I didn't update my furnace though.
Oh, okay. Janine, come on. So,
no, I mean, we updated our kitchen and all that. It wasn't.
Okay. And you know what? You are not going to get, unfortunately, dollar for dollar on what you put into a house. Because everyone's style is different. Maybe the next owner comes in and, unfortunately, because I love your kitchen, takes out the whole kitchen and puts in their own style of dark cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
So when we come into style and preference on styling your house, we can't get our dollar for dollar out of it, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, that's a shame. Yeah,
So,
I mean, I use you're going to put money in for your own enjoyment, and it's not, it's necessary. It's, sometimes you're not going to get that money back out.
Correct.
So
Especially
I'm sorry. So in this case though, ladies, if you had a seller and they're looking at this, how would you resolve? Would you come up over your $399 and meet somewhere to satisfy your seller that he feels good about his listing with you?
I think that when I'm listing a property, I'm going to find out what is their motivation and try to get them off of the subject of what their price is going to be or what the commission is going to be, but more importantly, what they expect to net. And we're going to have that conversation. And then the second conversation is reality, that this is what the market is doing today. Mm-hmm. Even by looking at the solds, those buyers are gone. They've already purchased a property. So I'm going to look at what's on the market today and evaluate price a lot of times from that. Of course, looking at the solds, but what's going on today. So if you want a offer that's going to be close to that price or even over that price, I suggest that you list it competitively, because all these buyers are going to have buyer's agents and they're going to be pulling the same data that we are. And my job as a listing agent is I may have one buyer in my pocket that would be a nice fit for this house, but most importantly, my job is to sell it to every single agent out there that sells homes. So I need to feel confident, as you do, with the price of the house. So how do I think we're going to get a competitive price quickly is to keep it under 400,000.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
And that's really where you have to go and take the emotion out of it.
So what's your conversation going to be if they say, okay, I value that, but I would like to go at 419?
I would say to them, I think that's too high. These are the reasons why. And you know, when there's one price reduction, there's usually three statistically. So let's price your home right so we can get an offer quickly and at a competitive price. I would hate for you to sit out in the market and then we're going to have to reduce it and then we're going to have to take two more reductions. So you're going to actually end up lower than that $399.9, and you're going to wish that we priced it competitively. Now, sometimes, you know, depending on the market, you could say, I don't think that $10,000 is going to make that big of a difference what we go out at. So let's try it. Let's evaluate the feedback and, you know, try it that way. But I really, if I feel really strongly about the list price, I'm going to try to sell that to the seller.
Well, and keep in mind, our comp came in at 374, 375. So we're still 25,000 over what our comp was at.
Right. And then find out the history of who that seller, how did they buy that home, right? So look in the data or call the listing agent, which I did. And I said, so this price, I know that this person bought it for that price. How did that person pay for it? Was it a loan or was it cash? Oh, it was cash. Oh, so they probably didn't have an appraisal. Yes. So I try to dig a little bit and see what I can find out.
That's a great idea.
I ask a lot of questions before I write an offer or list a house with the price.
That's a great idea. Hey, we have a couple of questions we missed here, Janine.
Oh.
So have you heard of a seller writing a check for cash as a bill of sale to make up the difference between the credit the lender would allow and the amount the seller and buyer had felt was reasonable for something that came up on the inspection?
I feel as though title company does not like that.
Yeah, the title company doesn't like anybody handing personal checks out.
No.
But somebody was just saying before, I don't remember who, was it Jordan? Said that the seller wrote a check.
To the buyer at closing?
To the buyer at closing, yep. So we missed this one. It was a little bit ago, but yeah, she had it happen. And then another one is using the RVM range can be helpful in giving you some wiggle room going in before seeing a property and any updates or needs for updates when having a phone conversation. Yeah, I always check the RVM before I go in. And like I said, it's not always correct because it gives you the 50% average of all of the properties. So if you have one property that went for 100,000 that was just the frame, and another property that was 300,000 that was fully finished and fully updated, it's going to give you a $200,000 price. It doesn't take into account that an investor went in and ripped everything out and ran out of money and can't finish the project. You know, they don't look into that. They just take the numbers and they divide it by 2 or 3 or 4, whatever they have.
I have a question. So when you get a call from somebody who wants to list their house, do you immediately look up the house and come in with some comps, or do you wait until you see, well, I mean, without even knowing what the condition of the house is, you immediately come in and do, you know, a comp? It is sold 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and the old pictures are still up there, but they've obviously done some big renovations, so you're trying to comp it out, but then you don't know the condition of the house that it's currently in.
Yes, and that's where you go in with all of your comps and a range of prices. You're not going to walk in and say, Mr. Seller, this is a great house. It's worth $400,000. You're going to walk through the house. You're going to take what the house was worth, what it's valued at, what it's assessed at, what's comparable in the neighborhood, and bring those comps. And I know Janine and Jay do the same thing. You want to do your homework definitely before you walk into that house.
Okay.
We never leave a listing appointment without, well, we have all the paperwork there. We have the listing agreement all ready to go. We've never been in that home before. We're listing that house before we leave that home. We're not going to come back. It's not a 2-step listing process of, well, we're going to get back with you with our comparables unless we did not do our job up front, meaning we did not really dive deep in with them when talking to them about their home. So we get all the facts. What have you done since you've owned the property? If I can pull it up in MLS, before I go in. Bathrooms, what bathrooms? What did you do? Kitchen, what kitchen? What did you do? Did you knock walls out? Did you add space? I need the whole picture. And I have all those notes, so I know I'm now looking at an updated home versus something that a non-updated home. So I have a pretty dang good idea after that conversation and after I pulled comparables, what I'm going to list that house for. It could go higher or lower depending on what I see, but I'm not leaving that house. We have seen so many people that we compete with that they go in and the seller says, yeah, we had so-and-so here 2 days ago and they were going to call us back with the price and we haven't heard anything yet. Well, guess what? Too bad, so sad, because we're listing it right now. Yeah, so go in with your listing folder and be prepared. Know everything about those homes. If they're currently on the market and you have a few days and it's a comparable, call that listing agent, find out how many showings they've had, what feedback they've had, so on and so forth, and then make an appointment and go look at those homes. And then you can say, I went to look at your competition. I was in their house. This is where I think your house needs to be. Who wouldn't hire you?
When somebody calls you up, I mean, how, say they want to meet you tomorrow, or, I mean, how are you going to set all these things up? Or
I probably wouldn't. As you become more experienced, that's why going to these brokers opens are really important. Bring a notebook with you and write down the address and, the pricing. That's kind of a fun game to do too, is go to brokers opens and you come up with your price of what you would list that house for. So go back to the office and take all the data and say, I wonder if that's really a listing price that I agree with, and then play around with it and do a market analysis, pull up the RPR, do all of that It's a really good exercise to play. Or go to the solds and find a house that recently sold, and you can see what it sold for and how did you come up with that same price. I mean, you can just really have a lot of fun with that.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah,
Thank you.
2 hours at least for a market analysis.
Yep. So another question, Janine, what is the ideal number of properties to use in your comps?
I don't think we go anything over like 10 total of active and solds. I don't want to overwhelm them. You know, what we do too is when we print out the market analysis, I print it out where we have the data sheet, and then we have the report on the top of all the addresses. And on that top sheet, we write all the notes down per property of pluses and minuses. And so as we're handing out the data sheet, talking to the seller, I have the notes for all of the listings so you can act, intelligent. Yep, so this house had, an updated bath, but all your notes are here. So they're thinking, oh my gosh, he knows what he's talking about. He's got all this data and he's figured it out.
I see under 10 also. And sometimes you have to be a little creative. Like I said, in Waukesha County, all our houses are very different. When you're in, Whitefish Bay, it's really windy outside. When you're in Whitefish Bay, out by us it is. The wind is just whipping. Oh. Squirrel. So, sorry. We have so many different houses in the same neighborhood. We will have, in one subdivision, we'll have ranches. We'll have 2 stories. We'll have exposed basements. We'll have houses on a golf course right across the street from, I have a new listing going live tomorrow. It's a $270,000 really nice ranch home across the street from an $800,000 house on a golf course. They're both overlooking the third fairway.
Wow.
But my house is in the older subdivision, but it still has the view of the $800,000 house right across the street. And I can't compare my, 1960s ranch that needs updating to this house in the golf course subdivision. So we have to take that into consideration also.
Oh, yeah. I like that. What other questions you guys have?
Question, there's an appraisal today on my condo later today. Now I can't, of course, meet the guy. I mean, he's going on by himself. Should I send him my comps that I used to price the condo?
Are you the listing agent or the buyer's agent?
I'm the listing agent.
Go ahead, Janine.
Oh yeah, no, I went blank. Yeah, I would send comps, and then I make sure that things to know, like the age of mechanicals, all that, any updates, and send it over to them. Anything that they, comps and anything that is going to bring that value.
So he doesn't look in MLS because like in MLS, all of the updates are in there.
You would hope. You would hope.
Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't.
Assume
some appraisers, yes, and some appraisers are very accepting of help. Others have been doing this for years and they know what they're doing. Those are the ones you have to worry about. But I usually, when we're not dealing with COVID, I will try and meet the appraiser there and hand them all my comps and say, this is updated, that's updated, this down the street, just to help you out because I know you're really busy lately. And I just, I put it out there as I'm helping him or her. And I usually, I've been lucky. I've had all my comps come back, but I've given them some real nice comps to go by. And usually they appreciate it. I've had one crabby old man that.
Same. I had maybe it's the same crabby old man. Did he drive a Lexus?
Yeah.
Did he?
Yes, he was terrible.
Horrible. I cracked him a little bit though. I started talking about his Lexus and then his wife and then anyway, yeah, he's a cranky son of a gun.
Yeah, try and break them down a little bit and befriend your appraisers so you can get what you want. And I have even said to them, you know, I had 6 offers on this house, and I know we're at $399, but I could really use a $420. And I've said that, and it's come in.
Yeah, and you know what? If you do have multiple offers, bring those multiple offers with you and black out all of the personal information, but show that to them. That helps. Or, you know, sometimes we'll have a listing and it's like, how did we get that price? I'll meet the appraiser and say, we only had this one offer, but we took it in 3 hours. We had multiple showings, and oh, by the way, we have a secondary offer, or whatever. Just whatever it is, blow it up.
Yep. Yep, good questions.
Thank you.
Anyone else on valuing properties, market analysis?
So next week we're going to be how to write a competitive offer. So just little tips and tricks that you guys can do down the road that might give you an edge over someone else, and what that looks like. Does that sound good?
Yes. Yep. One more question was, how long does it usually take for a turnaround on appraisals? I've had them in 2 days, and I've had them in 7 days.
Yeah, it depends on how backed up they are. And if rates drop and there's a lot of refinancing, we are not getting them back as quickly.
Correct.
Yeah.
So would it be possible, and I know this is kind of a crazy thing, but for next week, just for fun, because I loved when we did the, when we did this last doing CMAs with Jay, he gave us a property ahead of time, and we all priced it what we thought it should be. It would be kind of fun to do that again for next week, for just to start off, you know, okay, what prices did you guys go at for that house? And just see, you know, what we all do now that we've learned from you guys. It would be great to start off that way if possible.
We could definitely do that.
Yeah, we will. Connie and I will pick a property.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And you know what? We always look for suggestions too. So if you guys have anything that you really need, we would be more than happy to, you know, customize the next class and work our way through that for you guys.
Thank you.
And just another tip, go on MyKW, look at all of the opportunities there are for training right now. It is absolutely ridiculous. But I sat in a training, here it is, his name. It's, did you see him? Did you guys see this Glover guy out of Michigan?
Yes.
He came to the KW New Berlin office, but it's Jeff Glover. He's a KW agent, but he has a really strong team in Michigan, but he's now kind of broken off and is a trainer. And it's, most of it is free. If you just go on, what's his website? Glover, GLOVERU.com. Great little training classes. He talks a lot about, yesterday's discussion was 15 steps to put you in production quickly. And interestingly enough, it wasn't about CMAs. It wasn't about your database. It's all the stuff that we kind of like to do and is interesting, but those aren't the things that are going to put you in production. So I want to add that onto some, maybe in 2 weeks, of what those items are and how we can move forward.
Yep. And I actually watched I was in on a training about doing live videos through the KW website. It was really good. Just on what to set your phone on for your pixels to give you the best videos, because we're doing a lot of video walkthroughs, video showings right now, where to put your hook and your tease and your ask and your videos, and it was
Okay.
really, really good. So make sure to go on KW Connect and jump in on some of these classes. They're really good.
The information is out there and it's incredible. We'll regret it that we didn't do it once we get busy again and say, remember we had that month? What did we do?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will put a property on the launch website. Wait, how? Well, Mandy we'll get to you. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. We'll give you a property, and then we're going to talk about writing a competitive offer.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys. Have a fabulous day.
Thank you.
Make your
It's a
calls,
really wonderful week.
make your contacts, and let's write an offer.
Let's. And be safe, you guys.
Yes, be safe,
You as
everyone.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye, ladies.